Hello everybody. I'm going to do a video talking about my most recent trip to Colombia, only because everyone asks me, how was your trip? What were you doing down there? And it's difficult for me to answer that in a honest and detailed way. One, because I don't have a lot of time to sit and have that conversation over and over, and two, I don't expect most people to understand what I'm even talking about. So, for certain legal reasons, I have to doctor my words for why I was there. But what I will say is that I work with plant medicines, and it is not my first time to South America. I've been to Peru twice, and this was my second time to Colombia to work with specific plant medicines. Now, I debated making this video because the place that I had just gone to, I'd been to already. And this video might not be too long or too detailed because there's not a lot to cover as far as new information, and I'm better about just bullet pointing what I took away. So, with the specific medicine that I worked with, the first time I ever touched it was in Peru, and I went there for a specific reason. I needed psychological assistance, and I was out of options at my wit's end, and I went there, and I basically just put my faith in these people and went about a process on faith. And it was so chaotically and intensely overwhelming that it fundamentally changed who I was as a person. And that change lasted for a year and a half, almost 2 years. Until life wears on you and you revert to old bad habits, and you grow and you change and you collect the film over your lenses that cause you to need to have to go back to do more work. That's how it works. I went back to Peru to work with a different medicine. It was not as intense as the first medicine, but I did take away lessons. Then my third year, I went to Colombia for the first time and worked with the same medicine, but in a different context. Peru versus Colombia, there is a cultural difference in the medicine as far as how it's administered, the ingredients, the brew process, the ceremonial aspects. It's different. The delivery is different. The experience is different. And like I said, with my Peruvian experience, it was extremely harrowing. With my Colombian experience, I was more able to be present in the experience itself and be more cognitive through the process. And it was uniquely different, not quite as life-altering. But maybe it's also because I was in a different point in my life where I could process things differently. This most recent time that I went down there to Colombia to work with the medicine was for me to not so much heal, not so much overhaul my brain, though I wouldn't be opposed, because there are some switches in here that I'd like to flip. They're not preferable. But I went down there more or less to train and practice. When people ask me, how was your vacation? My vacations are not traditional vacations. They're not leisure. They're not for me to go relax. They're not for me to just get away. They're a time for me to put a lot of resources in, time and finances, to go somewhere and be under the supervision of people who do a very special thing so that I can have a very unique opportunity to grow and change. And that's what I want all the time. So I went down there, and my proposition to my, we'll call him the liaison, the emissary between myself and the tribes who administer the medicine, my proposition was, hey, I want to train. I'm not here to heal. I'm not here to dig up trauma. I'm not here for most of the same reasons that people come down here for this medicine. I want to learn how to work with it. I want to learn how to sit with it. I want to learn how to go deeper. I want to learn, composure in the chaos. I want autonomy instead of just being sucked under the riptide. So that's what we did. And what I learned was the medicine's going to meet you where you're at, and it's going to give you whatever it deems necessary. You don't get to just skip and bypass and jump to whatever level you want. Liken it to a martial arts, karate for simplicity. At first you're a white belt, and then you do some work, you get to your yellow belt, you do some work, you get to the whatever, blue, purple, brown, I don't know the belt system, but you advance, right? And you can't just jump belts until you have done the prerequisite work. So with this medicine, I've done a lot of the heavy lifting initially in my prior years, and when I showed up this time, as eager as I am to do the black belt shit, I still have to do some yellow belt shit because I am such an infant in that world. And I learned that if there's still stuff that needs to be cleaned, that will be cleaned before you can actually have a clean vessel to then invite the medicine in a certain way for you to then practice and work with it. So I got hit with some of that. There was some emotional, mental, psychological baggage that needed to be decluttered, defragged. And there was some physical blockages that needed to be dealt with. When I was there from this last excursion, I had 3 ceremonies. The first one was completely physical. There was no cognitive, out of mind experience. It was just physically cleaning my insides. It was uncomfortable, but it was necessary. And I understand that it's necessary because if the medicine can't get to where it needs to get to do the thing that it needs to do, well, then it's going to spend the entire night cleaning and making room for the following ceremony. And that's what it did. And then my second ceremony was, that was my fight. That was my, out of the 3, the overhaul, where we cracked, we went pretty deep. It pulled up 6 different, literally 6, specifically 6 different issues, some of which I knew existed, but I didn't think I really needed to chew on or work with. And when I explained that processing information or processing emotions is literally the exact same as just feeling them. And this specific medicine will act like an amplifier, and it'll take something that you are bothered with, even if you don't realize it, and it will bring that to the forefront, and you will feel it in its entirety to the most maximum intensity until it has seethed its way through you. And whenever your brain decides that it's done processing that piece of information, and then you move on to the next. And the emotions were so heavy that at one point, there was probably a solid 40 minutes where I had to focus on aggression specifically, and I felt like there was just rage coming out of my pores. It was hard to hold composure, and it was like seething. And I had to process through some shit. I had to process through, my grandfather's passing. I had to process through my feelings of inadequacy towards people who I view as more capable than myself. I had to process through relationships, platonic and romantic. I had to process anger that I didn't even know where the fuck it was coming from. It's just rooted in my fucking fabric. I had to chew on some stuff. And it honestly felt like it was attacking my nervous system. My body was not functioning. My fucking fingers were latched closed like claws, and I was just trembling, and I couldn't even get out of the dirt. I had to be thrown into my hammock because I was just laying next to my puke bucket and aspirating. The medicine was doing work. And then my third night, because the process, I had done so much cleaning my first and second night, that the third night was more of just like a light and ambient experience where I just floated through some things and had some light evaluations. There was no body shock. There was no body cleaning. I mean, maybe there was some cleaning, but it wasn't anything intense. And that's what my liaison, my emissary, was calling the soft landing. And that's what the goal was, because as he explained to me, I have a personality flaw where everything is a fucking war and everything is a fight, and I need to go in with sword and shield to every altercation. And one of my lessons is learning that that's not always necessary. So I'm getting better at listening, and I was advised that, hey, you already went to war. We don't need to do that anymore. You did that part. You did the heavy lifting. Let's not go to war for the sake of going to war on this closing ceremony. Let's just integrate and put things together. So that's what I did. I didn't partake in as much medicine as far as dosage, and it was gentler, obviously. Less of the amount and less to chew through, so it was mild. But I got what I asked for, which was basically I wanted to train, I wanted to learn. I wanted to be able to sit up straight during ceremony and partake in the other things that go on, instead of just laying in the fetal position with fucking puke on the side of my mouth, laying in the dirt. So that's what I did. And I have other medicines to sit with. I have other plans that are in other places aside from South America. I don't think I'll sit with this specific medicine that I just sat with for a while, because I don't feel the need. I feel like I have a good relationship with it now. It only took 6 years. And I will revisit it, but not anytime soon. So that's my short recap. Just under 14 minutes. If anyone has questions about what medicine it was specifically, we can talk in person. But yeah, that's all it was. So hope that clears things up.